Welcome back, everyone, to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the draft we just did. So we did some mock drafts. You've seen some of those, but honestly, mock drafts are tough to really gauge what really happens. I mean, it can help you. It helps you get the idea of what's happening in drafts, just the whole process, right? But nothing is the same until you actually get into one and actually do a real draft. Because, as we'll talk about in a minute, I swear every single time you think those prices are going to go high, and you know what? They go for even higher than you think. And that's what happened in our draft. So it is a keeper league. So there's a little bit, obviously prices sometimes are going to be exaggerated because of it. But so Jeff and I get into this draft. This is year like 16 on that league, Jeff, now, which is kind of crazy. But we get into the draft, and I think we both kind of had plans and knew what we had to do. And then the prices just went even more astronomical than I expected. And I think it was 4 players. This is $200 budget. 4 players went over $70. Did you see that coming this time? You know it's going to be more, but 4 guys?
No, not 4. I thought it was going to be CMC, and then we would see a reduction. And that did not happen.
It just didn't. But I'll say I went into that draft knowing, based on the keepers, in my mind, there was I think it was 5 or 6 players I thought that I'm like, I have to leave this room with one of those guys. It was McCaffrey, Bijan, Saquon. There's Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. Might have been I think those were my 5. I knew in there I need one of those 5 to try to build my team, and so that was my plan. Like we've talked about, you really go in there, try to be aggressive early, and I did. I tried to be aggressive early. CMC went. I didn't go for it. He went for 76. I'm like, all right, but I need to go next. And Bijan was up next. And I said, all right, I'm going to get him. Like I talked about on our must-have players, he was my must-have player. Went and got him with $72. So a little bit less than the top guy. But as Jeff, you went to the last kind of the tier, let's say.
Yeah.
The tier was small in this one. It was McCaffrey, Bijan, Saquon. Saquon was really kind of below it, you would say. But he went for $72 as well, didn't he? Same price as Bijan.
So did not get a deal. I thought that it wasn't going to be a deal either way, but I did think that both him and Bijan were probably going to be high 60s maybe.
Yep.
And when Bijan went for 72, it's kind of like, okay, well, maybe, Saquon a little, but I don't know. I think the hard part to swallow is I did have Bijan higher, maybe in another tier than Saquon, if you will. And I was fine to get any of them, kind of like Craig was. But it always hurts a little bit. Like, it was a few dollars, but at the same time, to spend the same amount as Craig got Bijan for and know that would preferably have that player instead always makes you question your pick. I needed a Saquon, I needed someone else, but or at least when I was looking at everyone, I think that would be the way to go. And it did turn out that way. I'm glad we went big, or at least that speaks for myself. I'm glad we did, because everyone went for a lot. And when we kind of saw the signs of that, you had to pivot, and making sure that I got a high-end running back was big, because I think that money would have been diluted even if I tried to split it in between 2 people. I don't think you would have come out with as good of a player. So
actually 5 guys went for over 70. AJ Brown went for 72. So here's the perfect example. The keeper part doesn't even matter for this. Our whole point about like the tiers, and you can't be at the end of tiers and you want to be at the beginning of tiers, is perfect in this draft. CeeDee Lamb was the first of the 3 receivers off the board. If you go CeeDee Lamb, the ones that we had available in this, CeeDee Lamb, Jefferson, AJ Brown were the top guys available in this draft. CeeDee Lamb was the first one nominated. He went for $53. Justin Jefferson was the next one who went for $73. And then the panic set in, and AJ Brown, because there was a drop after that for receivers, went for $72. So again, it's AJ Brown went for $19 more than CeeDee Lamb because he was at the end of a tier. That is the whole point of what we try to get across, is be at the beginning of that tier.
Yep. And it just made it so you can't get 2 mainstays. Like, you weren't able to get both him and both like an AJ Brown or Jefferson plus a, CMC, Saquon, Bijan. Like, you really couldn't make that happen.
Yep.
So once again, we talk about pivoting. That was the perfect time to do it. When you're really seeing all this, being aggressive, getting at least one guy early, and then deciding you have to pivot.
Yeah, exactly. So in this draft, obviously keeper leagues are different. There's sometimes not as many players as you want out there. So even I you know what? I had a plan and I stuck to it and it worked. It doesn't always work. ESPN doesn't love my team, which is fine. But I went into this draft. Sometimes you're in a situation like this, you're like, I need some upside. So I went and I got Devin A-Chain for $25, which after you look at these other prices, I thought that was an absolute steal for what the other players went for. And then I got Marvin Harrison. I said, you know what? Let me just take the chance. And he blows up. And I got him for 33. So I really like those prices after you look at everything else that was going on, how crazy it was. And I kind of went in with a plan and it happened. So how'd you end up? So I didn't really have to pivot, right? I didn't have to move. I did miss out on, the only problem is I missed out on some of the cheaper guys I wanted, like the Chase Browns, the Tyjae Spears. And because of that, I lost that because the prices like went for a little bit higher than I thought maybe. So I didn't really have that in the budget. Couldn't go for it. I had to go very cheap quarterback. I went cheap tight end. I couldn't get those other guys. I just didn't have enough to make it work. But so I really didn't have to pivot. I had nowhere to pivot to. But how to go for you?
I will say, and I did have to pivot, and I will talk about it in a sec, but I do want to talk about that, what you just said, really, really quickly, because I think that's the other thing that can happen is if you do keep your money or you're planning on getting someone late. We had this where we had a guy that had a ton of money later in the draft, so he was able to just outbid all of us by a buck or two and get a lot of really good names. The bench is really, really solid, right? A lot of like potential like stepping up, or if there's an injury or just young guys breaking out second year. But because of that, your bench struggled, right? But which way would you rather go? And I think the main point I'm trying to make is if you do think that you're going to be able to get all these deals later, you'll end up in one of two camps, right? You're either going to be disappointed because your money is spent other places and you're not able to get all these guys if you don't plan accordingly, or you are that person that didn't spend their money early enough and then your bench looks amazing, but maybe your starters lack somewhere. And I think that is very easy to end up in two of those camps, but I'd much rather be in your shoes where you're like, I missed out on 2-3 guys that I really want on my bench because I want to be right and I want them to break out. But because of that, I got a guaranteed wide receiver 1 on a team that I think will produce.
And actually, one thing I did do at the end, though, I like this of being aggressive early, and then in the middle of the draft, I really am never active because I don't have money anymore, but I have some. I don't want to spend it. But I hit a point at the end where I was able to outbid people for some players that I wanted. I think I got like Ladd McConkey for decent amount. I think you were going for him. You didn't have me. You didn't have the money. So I was watching that. That's what I like to do, and I think people should keep doing is watch the other teams' budgets and where they're at. And I was watching, and I knew at one point, other than the one guy who had all the money, and I was just waiting for him to be done, I had the second most, and then you had the third most. So we both did that. We're aggressive, and then we waited and tried to get some of our guys at the end, and I think it can work. So I didn't get like everyone I wanted, right? But you know, I got McConkey, who I like. I got Jaden Daniels as a backup. I got Ty Chandler, who I like. I got Zach Charbonnet. Actually, I wanted to get him for cheap. I got him for $2. It was great. See if he does anything. And then I got Zeke for $2. Hey, you know what? Starting running back possibly for $2. So.
And that was the funny part too, because I was looking for deals, and you end up being like, would I take him for 2? Should I? And that is where near the end, you really do have to pick your moments to be like, all right, this is the guy I need. I want. I don't. Anyway, but. As far as me pivoting, so I was coming in with keepers, right? And I was also down $20 because of trades, all this. We kind of go intense with it. But I started off with, I had Jamar Chase and I had Travis Etienne. A really good start, but obviously I was down quite a bit of money. So I came in and I knew that I wanted one of the top guys. And once I saw the prices going, and the amount of players, 20 players that are gone off of the rosters, I was like, okay, Saquon is probably the last mainstay that I really, really want because, I love Jefferson, but I'm not going to, after seeing him go for 70, I was very glad too, because even for like 50, I would have been like, who knows? But I went and got Saquon, but I had spent $72. So now I'm already very low on cash and everyone was going for a lot of money. So now I know I can't go out and get another primetime wide receiver, which I was hoping to be able to do, have that 4 really stable players, go cheap on QB, cheap on tight end, and kind of make up the difference, right? I couldn't do that, so immediately I shifted and I was like, okay, I'm going to grab a QB, depending on which one, what I actually think. I went for Josh Allen. I went to the height of what I thought I could get him for. I ended up getting for $16. Honestly,
solid.
One more and I would have let him go and been like, okay, I'm going to try Mahomes. But worked out. I think that I just have, even if he doesn't repeat what he did last year, I don't have to worry about him. I'm going to get a top 5 quarterback. He's going to be solid every week. Great. It gives me a little stability when I know I'm going to be a little shaky the rest of the way. After that, I had to go for guys that other people that I value a lot more than everyone else, and overpaid by a little bit, but not a big deal, right? So someone like the big ones would be Austin Eckler. I got him for 7, but I was just kind of aggressive, went out, and I really wanted him. I think that he is going to be much more valuable than other people think. I got lucky. I thought he would even go double digits the way everyone was going, and I got Cooper Kupp for 28. I know a lot of people disagree with me on the Cooper Kupp thing, but especially for this, I think it is a steal. I think that as long as he stays healthy, $28 in that league is going to be great. And then I got really lucky with Amari Cooper. He was for $6, but
Yeah.
I needed a wide receiver 3, and he kind of just fell to me, and I was like, great. Like,
Well, the Amari Cooper one, yeah, that was cheap. And this is another lesson for everybody is make sure you're paying attention, even if it's not a guy you want, because Lamar Jackson went for $2.
Yep.
It was one of those where he got on the board, someone else bid it. Everyone else just kind of sat there, wasn't really paying attention, was waiting. I was looking at my spreadsheet, and all of a sudden, he was gone. And because I wasn't getting him, right? So that's the thing where you still got to be paying attention, because I wasn't getting Lamar. I already decided I'm going cheap quarterback, right? You still got to pay attention, because I'd take Lamar Jackson for that $3 bid.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not gonna. I would.
Yeah.
For $3, I would put him on as a backup. Like, those are things you feel like you can't let happen.
Yeah, and then just some of the prices you'll see in these drafts. Like, again, it just matters when they go, because this is funny to look at this. Nico Collins is an interesting one, because he's highly ranked, right, as a wide receiver. But he went after the big run of everyone. He was kind of in this right after a lot of the big money was spent, and he went for $21. So it wasn't really.
It's a good deal.
It is, but it wasn't like it's a really good deal, and it wasn't. People were just kind of in that weird spot. But then like Zay Flowers went for $20. Like, I like Zay Flowers, but I don't like Zay Flowers $1 less only than Nico Collins, right?
Well, and that was also where did the rest of the Texans fall? Where did
Diggs went for 28.
He went for 28, and
yeah, so he went for more, and then Tank Dell went for 14.
Okay, so all in, you start wondering. You're kind of like, okay, like
there was some wide receiver deals in the middle though. It just the way this draft, when that big money comes off, we were both sitting, and Jeff and I were texting like, at some point the money's gonna have to be gone, right? Like, the deals are gonna have to start at some point.
Well, as big as the players went early on, you're kind of like, how is there still money on the board?
Yep.
But I mean, it all comes down to some people had really good keepers, and you have extra money and all this, but yeah, and honestly, and then trying to fill out the bench too. I don't know if you had a plan, but obviously I had a bunch of guys I liked, but all of them were getting scooped up for a lot more money. So I did end up with some interesting players like Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, who, if Zeke isn't the guy, then it's maybe it goes to him. So you're just taking your shot. And also, I wasn't able, like the tight ends I liked went for quite a bit as well. We're all double digits when I didn't have the cash anymore. So I ended up taking Hawkinson for $2. Hey. I'm going to put him on my IR for a minute because we don't know if he's going to miss 3, 5 weeks, whatever. But I'm kind of like, I'll grab him, stream, and then once he's healthy, I can use him. So I was trying to figure out a way to mitigate all the holes in my, and then Jameson Williams I went out and got kind of early, and he only went for $4.
Yeah, solid.
Because another one where I was like, I think that is a guy that I really want. I'm willing to take the win. And like, I was willing to pay more for him, but
So I think overall though, I think we both kind of had plans and kind of stuck to them for the most part and feel pretty decent with how it turned out. So that's just, I actually didn't do a lot of mocks before this one. I just knew what I wanted to do. And
this one's really difficult to mock for because of all the players that are kept and all the money that is.
They are, but little thing on ESPN I didn't tell you about. I don't know if
I saw that. It's actually new. Yeah, I actually did not try that. But
so ESPN now has it where you can do a practice draft with your actual league. So if you have keepers, let's say, if keepers are already locked, you can go a practice draft and it'll be with all the keepers that were locked. So I did that.
Did you? Did it work out pretty well, or was it still?
Yeah. And I got Bijan, Marvin Harrison, and Devin A-Chain
nice.
in the practice draft. So I spent more in the actual draft, but I already planned that out and it worked. And
so it was really just your bench that was different.
Bench is different. Yeah. So, all right. That'll do it for this one, though. Talk to you guys next time.